So, boss fights can often make or break a game. Get them right and they'll elevate a great game into an all-timer territory, but if you get it wrong, they will serve as a frustrating brick wall in an otherwise entertaining title. And because a simple boss fight where you hack away at a single life bar isn't good enough for some developers, many games opt to throw out multi-phase boss battles at the player in hopes of crafting something more epic and involved. So what we're going to do today is take a look at this trope and find examples of the best of the best. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 best multi-phase video game boss fights ever. Number 10. The Stranger, God of War. The God of War franchise is jam-packed with jaw-dropping boss fights, though in terms of multi-phase battles, nothing has ever quite topped the stunning introductory battle against the Stranger at the start of 2018's reimagining. The battle is composed of 3 segments, with the player having to whittle the Stranger's health down to 0 3 separate times before it comes to an end. It kicks off with a more down-to-earth cinematic slugfest that grows increasingly ridiculous. Once Kratos has depleted most of Baldur's health once, his bar will suddenly restore itself for Phase 2. Kratos grows increasingly angry and aggressive throughout the second phase, but once you've got Baldur down to 0 again and dropped a damn rock on him, he will return once more, restoring his health again for part 3. This time, he will fly around the arena more and generally fight more tenaciously, until players finally get him down to 0 for the third and final time. Well, until you fight him at the end of the game, of course. While this isn't a massively challenging boss fight by any conventional standard, it is a whole lot of fun, melding cinematic high-wire action with the primal thrill of stomping a mud hole in a powerful adversary. Number 9. Ornstein and Smough, Dark Souls. Picking just one multi-phase boss fight from the Dark Souls trilogy is incredibly tough, but it's also tough to argue with the brilliance of the original game's battle against Ornstein and Smough. This legendary and extremely challenging fight begins with the player taking on both the lightning-fast Ornstein and the hammer-toting Smough all at once, though players will understandably attempt to focus their attacks on one of the duo in order to reduce it to a one-on-one affair. But From Software naturally anticipated this, and so once either Ornstein or Smough is dealt with, a cutscene will show the surviving boss absorbing their fallen comrade's power, ballooning in size, regaining all of their health, and even inheriting some of their pal's abilities to boot. And so the decidedly trickier second phase then begins, where players can easily get one hit killed if they're unprepared or just not paying attention. Though some of Dark Souls' multi-phase fights are absolutely infuriating, this one is sufficiently inventive and entertaining enough that you just might not mind getting trounced again and again before finally prevailing. Number 8. King Dice, Cuphead. No game loves a multi-phase battle like Cuphead, the zenith of which is the game's legendary boss battle against the devious King Dice, the devil's assistant and the game's penultimate boss. Before the player can get to fight King Dice himself though, they're forced to take part in a dice game with the goal being to reach the end of the board, where whenever you land on a red space, you'll need to fight a casino-style mini-boss, of which there are 9 in total. These mini-bosses include a trio of booze receptacles called the Tipsy Troop, a cowboy hat-wearing stack of poker chips called Chips Bettigan, and a deranged rabbit magician named Hoppus Pocus, or should that be Hopus Pocus? Doesn't sound as good the second time, but it definitely sounds close. It doesn't matter. There's a tremendous amount of diversity and creativity to each of these encounters, without even getting to King Dice himself, whose face sees him march a parade of playing cards towards you. It goes without saying that this boss fight will test every morsel of the player's skill, but each of its 10 phases feels impressively unique, which is pretty much a rarity in boss battles this expansive and prolonged. Number 7. Mother Brain, Super Metroid. Super Metroid's final boss is Mother Brain, which initially appears to involve the player simply firing away at the glass housing until it breaks and you're able to directly impact the brain itself. You'll need to shoot the brain while avoiding incoming projectiles from elsewhere, but once the battle seems to be over, you'll realize in fact that it's only just starting. Mother Brain will then spawn a massive dinosaur-like bipedal body for the real fight, where pure scrappy survival is the name of the game. If you do manage to deplete Mother Brain's health, she'll launch her devastating laser brain attack. Though this can kill the player, a scripted sequence then follows in which a Metroid larva arrives to attack Mother Brain, heal Samus, and also give her Mother Brain's hyper beam energy. This will then allow the player to make short work of the boss once and for all. There are certainly harder multi-phase boss fights out there, but Super Metroid's Mother Brain is a classic that has aged like fine wine. Number 6. Ganondorf, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. Zelda fans will argue until the end of time about which of the series' clashes with Ganondorf is the best, though in the multi-phase stakes there's a strong argument to be made that Twilight Princess rules them all. The climactic battle against Ganon is comprised of 4 diverse phases. First off, you'll need to battle a possessed puppet Zelda, then Ganon will transform into his wild boar form, thirdly he'll leap onto horseback and lead Link on a merry chase, and finally it's back to basics with a simple but rather epic sword fight. Though this 4-stage encounter isn't as difficult as other Ganondorf battles, the dynamic nature of its phases and the sheer thrill of the last 2 in particular really makes it stand out amongst the franchise. As a capper to one of the darker and more adventurous games in the series, it was one hell of a memorable way to close things out. Number 5. Hades. Hades, the final boss of the eponymously named roguelike dungeon crawler, more than lives up to the literal and figurative hell that players have surely put themselves through to reach him. The first phase is tricky enough. Hades wields a massive spear which can deal catastrophic damage if you aren't quick on your feet, and this is without mentioning his debilitating skills that he can cast, plus the fact that he can turn invisible, plus the fact that once you get close to draining his life bar, he'll sick his minions on you. Once you finish the job, and I use that in quotation marks, a wounded Hades will drop down to one knee before pulling a total troll job and refilling his health bar for phase 2. Set to a brilliantly mad metal score, the second round sees Hades throw a few more moves into his repertoire, and it goes without saying that unsuspecting players can easily get caught out. The euphoria of finally triumphing over Hades speaks for itself, and this final showdown sure did not disappoint. Number 4. Photoshop Flowey. Undertale. Final bosses don't come much more creative or unhinged than Photoshop Flowey, aka Omega Flowey, at the end of Undertale's neutral route. This heavily segmented battle reveals Flowey's final form after he absorbs the 6 human souls, transforming him into a nauseating, skin-crawling fusion of flower, human, and machine. The ensuing fight is heavily segmented, alternating between fighting Flowey and reclaiming each of the 6 souls through an array of totally insane bullet hell sequences. Once you have the souls, you'll be able to whistle his giant health bar down, though upon doing so, he'll simply reload a previous save file, call you an idiot, and restart the fight with a full health bar. Thankfully though, the souls will step in and help defeat him once and for all. Between the frequent fourth wall breaking visuals and the insane musical score, this is a sensory assault of a final boss beyond any and all compare. Number 3. Sephiroth. Final Fantasy VII. Now, everyone has their favorite Final Fantasy boss, but in terms of prolonged multi-phase fights that are as entertaining as they are lengthy, it's tough to argue with Final Fantasy VII's climactic endurance trial against Sephiroth. The final fight is effectively a 4-stage boss rush taking place in the Northern Cave without any breaks or save points in between. First off, players take on Jenova's final form, Jenova Synthesis, which when nearing defeat will cast the ultra-damaging Ultima attack. Survive that, and you're on to round 2 against Bizarro Sephiroth, a mutated form of Sephiroth who the player can potentially battle with multiple parties depending on how they've played the game up until this point. Get past him and there's the unironically monikered Safer Sephiroth, his final form that can cast the infuriatingly devastating Supernova attack, all while set to the character's theme tune of One Winged Angel. Defeat Safer and you'll then be gifted a scripted can't-lose final showdown with a regular old Sephiroth, where you simply have to hit him with Omni Slash and then it's all over. Beyond the obvious player nostalgia and accepting its sometimes brutal difficulty, this remains the blueprint for an epic, harder-than-nails Final Fantasy end boss that truly delivers the goods. Number 2. Liquid Ocelot. Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. Perhaps no boss fight in the history of video games has so brilliantly capitalized on fan service as Metal Gear Solid 4's climactic battle between Old Snake and Liquid Ocelot. Atop Ocelot's battleship Outer Haven, Snake and Ocelot face off for a simple fistfight, but one informed by Hideo Kojima's decision to split the battle into 4 segments, with each of the first 3 phases playing homage to one of the previous mainline games in the series. Each phase has health bars for Snake and Ocelot in the style of the 3 original games, while set to their most iconic respective songs, with Ocelot continually changing up his attack style in between these phases. The 4th and final phase, however, is a considerably simpler QTE-style punch-up in which an exhausted Snake and Ocelot sluggishly attempt to put each other down for the count. As if this wasn't awesome enough though, defeating Ocelot then rewards players with an almost comedically lengthy hour-long ending. But still, for all of its silliness and goofy Kojima-isms, this is the fight of all fights. And number 1, Ludwig Bloodborne. Now, you couldn't limit From Software to just one game on this list because it simply wouldn't be fair to exclude one of their all-time greatest and most beloved bosses, Ludwig from Bloodborne's The Old Hunters DLC. The first phase sees the players battle Ludwig the Accursed, a revolting horse-like creature whose many flailing limbs can deal massive damage to the player, and even if you keep your distance, well, he will just spit at you. Gross. If you manage to evade his unpredictable attacks long enough though to chip away at his health bar, he'll appear to perish in a cutscene, only to be roused by the Holy Moonlight Sword, kickstarting Phase 2, where Ludwig goes by the moniker Ludwig the Holy Blade. Ludwig is now even mightier than before, less beast and more sword-toting humanoid, and therefore considerably more focused in his attacks. Combined with the ultra-atmospheric setting and incredible music, this all ensures Ludwig is a tricky From Software boss battle that doesn't feel like it's torturing players just for the sake of it. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 best multi-phase video game boss fights ever. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, and it'd be great to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope you're treating yourself well with love and respect, my friends, because you bloody well deserve all of the best things in life, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. Sometimes life itself can feel like a boss fight, but trust me, you are not down and out. You can do this. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.